Hi, I'm Patrick Dunnican. At Gibbons, we believe that citizens need to be informed about the complex issues that affect their lives. That's why we're proud to support the programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., RWJ Barnabas Health, the New Jersey Education Association, PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities, NJM Insurance Group, Verizon, and by International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825. Promotional support provided by Commerce Magazine and by Observer New Jersey Politics.
Hi, Steve Adubato here, coming to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio in beautiful Brick City, Newark, New Jersey. It is my honor to introduce a gentleman who knows this city very well, the former mayor of the United States Senator from the great state of New Jersey, Cory Booker. Good to see you, Senator.
Great to see you, man. Great to see you. We go way back. It's one of these times that I'm sure you have this with so many people. You've known them for 20, 30, 40 years, worked with them.
Yeah, well, not 40 with you, because when you ran for the Central Ward council seat, you were in your 20s, if I'm not mistaken.
I was in my 20s. I guess I moved to the city around 1996. Your dad was one of the first people I met with who saw things in me I didn't see in myself.
By the way, quote, for those who are following us everywhere, my dad was just a little bit involved in politics. Go ahead.
Yeah.
That's my version.
Your dad was New Jersey's perhaps last Italian machine boss. And I don't mean that in any negative way, because you and I were talking off camera. Talk about a guy who has affected generations in this city, built educational institutions, honoring seniors through incredible facilities and programming. I mean, he's left a mark on this city in a way that few people have in the last century.
Thank you, Senator. Let me ask you this. You have been influenced. We'll talk about politics, and we'll talk about immigration, tax policy, whole range of issues, the opioid crisis. Can I ask you this? Your view of leadership and the way you lead in the United States Senate and the way you may lead this country one day comes from where?
Look, Newark, I always say that, when you govern here, it sears away all partisanship. You just have challenges. You got to fix things. You got to fix them quick. And I always say I got my BA from Stanford with my PhD on the streets of Newark because this city adopted me, taught me. Some of my greatest life heroes, American heroes, are Newark residents. And I just learned you have to create uncommon coalitions to create uncommon results. And so I went down to Washington with a mayor's mentality, Chris Christie and I could write a dissertation on our disagreements, but he was the governor of the state, and I was the mayor of the largest city. We had to find common ground to stand on, and Newark's boom right now, the first time in 60 years our population's growing, biggest economic development period in 60 years. So much of that is because he and I fought through our differences to find common ground and did good things. And so that's where I am in Washington, whether it's the infrastructure in this region, which is 100 years out of date in some cases.
And dangerous in some cases.
And dangerous. And so working with a Mississippi Republican, Roger Wicker, to pass legislation to get us money to try to rebuild our New Jersey transit infrastructure, that win was because of that attitude. Finding ways to protect veterans' access to traumatic brain injury centers here in New Jersey with Dean Heller, Republican from Arizona. We got that done because of finding common ground. And even the biggest economic development bill perhaps passed in decades that gives much better tax treatment if you invest in low-income areas like Camden, Trenton, Newark. That bill, which is going to bring billions of dollars into communities like Newark, was done because I found common ground with Tim Scott across the aisle. So New Jerseyans who pay too much taxes, who send too much money down to Washington, get too little back. If I was just going to be a partisan down there as opposed to a problem solver, we would get I would be not scoring as many points for the state.
You know, on this, it's not just really a question of leadership, it's a question of getting things done, which may be another way to say the same thing. Is it harder, Senator, in Washington, in this current environment, with the polarization that most of us see, to accomplish things and be the leader you want to be?
So, yeah, I mean,
I'm not just talking respectfully. I'm not just talking about your colleagues in the United States Congress and the Senate. I'm talking about the other branch of government that is elected, the executive.
look, I think there's nothing. If you're New Jerseyan, like we're such a diverse state. We don't care if you're Italian, if you're black. New Jersey has the only state with 2 minorities we sent down. They don't care that Menendez and I are black and Latino. They just like, can you guys get the job done? Fine. I couldn't believe that I'm the 4th elected African American in the history of our country, popularly elected African American to the Senate, and it wasn't even an issue on the campaign trail. Nobody seemed to care. They're just like, can you get the job done? That's New Jersey, but this has been a tough year and a half where I just have never seen things that are happening now in New Jersey. We have sick Americans with turbans getting heckled in New Jersey transit stations. When has that happened before? When we were growing up, at the rate and level it's happening now, it's almost like this thin, narrow band of folks with bigoted ideals feel this license to hate now openly, like we haven't seen before in our country.
What do you think it is?
I don't know what it is, but I do know in times of tough economic stripes, as much as you want to talk about the unemployment rate, New Jerseyans, as all Americans, we have this common pain where we're working harder and harder, but making less money. If you were a baby boomer in America, 90% of baby boomers did better than their parents. If you're a millennial, it's a coin toss, 50-50 chance. We're seeing an economic environment where everything's going up, cost of prescription drugs, everything's going up, the cost of college. So people are being squeezed, and I think it's creating a lot of insecurity. And demagogues try to play on that and try to blame Mexicans or Muslims or what have you, as opposed to seeing this as a time of common pain. We should create more of a sense of common purpose. We have folks that are trying to play upon that. And in a time of news fracturing where truth is getting squelched more and more, and you see these lies coming out, I think that's breeding a very combustible environment. But this is the time that individuals, not presidents or senators, but all of us need to have a more courageous love and empathy for each other and understand we're all in this together.
Senator, on the question of immigration, as we do this program, folks, it is toward the end of June. We don't know exactly what's going to happen on the immigration issue. And the immigration issue is much more than, but very much tied to the current situation as we speak right now, with children at the borders being separated, if you will, from their parents. I'm not going to get into a back and forth as to who's to blame for it, but the question is, what does that represent in your mind as to what our country stands for? If that were to continue, and we don't know what's going to happen moving forward. Go ahead, Senator.
Well, this has affected thousands of people already. This is, I have to say this, you know, I sometimes say if this country hasn't broken your heart, you don't love her enough. This is a heartbreaking moment. This is a shameful chapter in American history. We've seen it before. You're an immigrant family. You're here because people escaping persecution, whether you're Irish American, escaping famine, Italian American, facing oppressive conditions in Italy, came here. They didn't wait for a visa. They got on boats, ships, crossed perilous waters to come here. I'm telling you, this is a morally repugnant moment. We are doing this. Our government is doing things that violate our common values.
Is it a moment?
It is. I pray that it's a moment. And this is not assaulting just the dignity of those people at the border. This is an assault on American dignity, on the humanity of us, who we claim to be as a country. And that you have conservative leaders, whether it's Catholic leaders, Christian evangelicals, former Republican First Lady Laura Bush, all coming out and saying, no, we are Americans, we stand for things. This is moral vandalism on our values. I'm hoping that more and more people will stand up. And I have to say, I have to warn Americans, there's not many moments like this where you have to understand the opposite of justice is not injustice always. It's often apathy, indifference, inaction. This is a time, whether it was like people being beat on a bridge in Alabama.
Pettus Bridge.
Yeah, Edmund Pettus Bridge, whether it was...
Including United States Congressman John Lewis as a 21-year-old.
There's these moral moments where you can't just be silent. You have to speak out against it. It's not a partisan thing. This is about patriotism, a nation that believes in love, inclusion, believes in ideals that we conduct ourselves in a certain way. We are the protectors of human rights and human decency, not the afflictors and assaulting. So please speak out. Call your Congress. And by the way, we live in a state where we have Republican and Democratic Congress people who don't sanction this kind of stuff. This is time for us to speak out.
By the way, United States Senator Cory Booker, how can people follow you on Twitter? I don't know if you've gotten involved in social media. I'm not sure you have many followers.
I am blessed. And it's all the same, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Cory Booker.
Cory Booker.
All one word.
I know you don't like doing this, Senator Booker. By the way, Steve Adubato here with United States Senator Cory Booker. Do you have like a couple thousand people following you on Twitter?
I am blessed to have millions of people following me.
Millions and
Yes.
millions.
Yes.
You sound like Carl Sagan right now. I'm dating myself.
No, it's terrible.
All right, we know where to go. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's try this. In fact, we are speaking with Senator Booker, and now I want to deal with the question of SALT, S-A-L-T, state and local deductions. The federal government, through the most recent tax policy, is if you live in Jersey or you live in New York, you know about this. There is a limit. It's 10 grand, 10,000, that's it. Property taxes, state taxes, that's all you can write off. Let's just say, Senator, if you live in certain communities in New Jersey, I happen to be in Montclair, a beautiful town, that will help, but it will not help that much. What can and what should be done to try to undo that, or is that it, 10 grand? You can't write it off after that.
So I live in the central ward of Newark in a low-income, working-class neighborhood. I pay more than $10,000 in property taxes. So let's understand what this was. This was an awful tax bill that most Republicans in New Jersey in the congressional delegation.
Did the Trump White House drive it?
Trump White House drove it. Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan drove it. Most, not all of our Republicans, but most Republicans in our delegation voted against it because it specifically targeted New Jersey, which is the #1 state in America.
Why?
For sending more money to Washington than we get back.
Why would New Jersey be targeted?
Because we're a blue state, like other blue states from California and New York. They said, let's pay for this big corporate tax relief, taking away a deduction from states like New York and New Jersey. And so this was a direct assault designed to hurt New Jerseyans. 1 out of 10 New Jerseyans are going to be paying higher taxes this year because of this. That are losing their state and local deduction. All to do what? To give corporations who have an 80-year corporate profit high, to give them more of a tax break. Working class people in New Jersey, working families are paying for that tax cut.
But Senator Booker, respectfully, the Trump administration says we're creating more jobs, jobs that didn't exist before, and that's good for the economy, you say?
I don't say. I look at data. When I was mayor of the city, I used to say, in God we trust, but everybody else bring me data. And so what have corporations done with their tax bonanza? Have they hired more people? Have they invested in infrastructure or research and development? No. Overwhelmingly, they've taken these profits and used them for what? Stock buybacks, which used to be illegal in our country because it was stock manipulation, but they're just using it to enrich the investors, 30% of whom are not even American citizens. So they're not investing in our country. They're not creating and expanding jobs. And so this is this ideal that we already make fun of, this idea of trickle-down economics. If they wanted to design a tax plan that gave working New Jerseyans a real tax break and made that permanent, remember, the tax breaks they've given in this are not permanent.
They're not
for individuals.
They sunset.
They sunset. While the
Which
corporate
means that's
tax,
it.
The corporate
tax is in
permanent.
perpetuity.
In perpetuity. And so this is every New Jerseyan should be offended by this. That's why our Republican congressmen people were against it, and that's why I stand with the governor for trying to create Governor Murphy, who's trying to create mechanisms where towns can set up 501c3s, so you can pay like me. I can pay the $10,000 to Newark, and I can pay the few thousand over my to a nonprofit, get the tax break on my federal taxes.
You're listening to United States Senator. You're also watching United States Senator Cory Booker. This is Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from the NJTV studio in Newark, the Agnes Vera studio. Senator, when we come back, let's do the Gateway Tunnel. Let's do the opioid crisis and as many other issues that we can cover. Steve Adubato, Cory Booker will be right back right after this.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Steve Adubato here. We are talking to United States Senator. See, look at people outside the studio. They are taking pictures, not of me, but in fact of Senator Booker.
It's the haircut.
Is that what? Let's do this. The opioid crisis.
Yes.
Where are we? What are you doing? I know there's a bill that's moved in the House. It's passed in the House and the Senate. Some of our friends over at St. Joseph's Medical Center, they're very involved in this.
They
in terms of ED.
Me. Yeah.
They're trying to cut out the overuse and abuse of opioids in the ED, other hospitals as well. Go ahead.
Well, they're doing two things. One is trying to lower the prescribing of these opioids when you really don't need them. And number two is they're seeing when you do overdoses, people come to the hospital, they often leave and they'll overdose again. But they found a way to dramatically cut that down, a model for New Jersey. And their data can't be argued with. So I looked at that and said, this is something that actually works. It's an evidence-based solution to this national crisis, epidemic-like proportions. The death rates are out of control in our state and others.
What can the federal government do, Senator Booker?
Number one, we could fund programs like this that are evidence-based. Investments actually save money for taxpayers long range, because if you invest in stopping repeated overdose, you're stopping the cost of these addictions. And so we need to fund these programs, and I'm so happy that my bill, this ALTO bill, this
alternatives to opioids.
Towards opioids, is now part of that legislation as well and moving through Congress. So we need to fund more money to programs that work, and we need to find the best practices around our country and attack this problem. If this was a foreign attack that took this many lives, we saw what happened after 9/11, 3,000 lives. Literally, we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars as a result of that. This is tens and tens of thousands of lives, but we're not treating it like the crisis that it is.
Senator Booker, the Gateway Tunnel may sound like a purely, quote unquote, if you're listening on the radio, those are air quotes, purely an infrastructure project. That Gateway Tunnel, New York, New Jersey connection, where are we? What's the problem? And if the Trump administration and others in Congress, the Republican Congress and others who say, no, that's your problem, New York, that's your problem, New Jersey, it's not our problem. What is the tunnel and why does it matter to everyone in this nation?
Everyone, the Obama administration, before they left, they said the #1 infrastructure project in all of America, all of North America, is the busiest rail corridor in North America.
Did the Obama administration put enough money into it?
They prioritized it. We were flying down the tracks. When I got into office, this project was dead. We weren't even talking to each other. I remember Schumer was attacking Chris Christie.
Schumer in New York,
everything.
Right?
We were yelling at each other, blaming each other. I said, time out, summit meeting in my office.
So, excuse me, New York was blaming New Jersey was blaming New York, and the tunnel wasn't being built.
But nothing was happening, frozen on the tracks. We had a summit meeting in my office, Chris Christie, Bob Menendez, Secretary of Transportation, all of us said yes. Everybody stood up. The governor at that time, the regional senators, we all said, you're right. Stop our fighting, let's put together a plan. We put together a plan. I got legislation passed in the federal government to arm New Jersey with better policies. We invested the money, started moving again. Everything was looking good.
What happened?
Trump got elected and now has been trying to frustrate the project. But we still had great leaders, Republican Rodney Freelandheisen stepping up and saying, hey, I'm appropriations to the House. I'm going to help out. This has been a bipartisan thing because everybody understands the infrastructure in our region is crumbling. You could travel half an hour faster on the Northeast Corridor in the 1960s by rail than you can now. We're literally going backwards. People who live in New Jersey are having their lives upended. They have to leave earlier. They can't take their kids to school. This is killing our productivity, costing us billions of dollars in this region because we're being choked by inadequate infrastructure.
Devil's advocate, Senator Booker, Steve Adubato here, if you're just checking us out. Someone says, we can't afford it. Just cannot afford such a massive capital investment in New York and New Jersey. Can't do it.
Right.
It's not. And listen, we're not against the project. We just can't do it right now. Timing's off.
I'd say this simply. If you got a hole in your roof, can you not afford to fix it? The longer you wait, the more expensive it gets, the more damage is done to your house.
Senator, you make it sound like it has to be done sooner or later.
If we don't do this, and we have to pull one of those tunnels out of service to repair it, traffic Armageddon that would affect everywhere from Boston to Washington, D.C., crippling 10-20% of the U.S. economy, the most productive economic region in the country. It would cost us hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars would cost this region to have that kind of crippling. There is no country on the planet Earth, the most valuable economic region, the busiest river crossing in North America, that would allow this to have happened. We have got to step up and understand that we're the first generation, you and I. We inherited the best infrastructure on the planet Earth from our parents and grandparents.
What are we doing with it?
We've trashed it, and we're about to hand over $3 trillion of infrastructure deficit to our kids. Republicans used to lead this charge. Eisenhower Highway Act.
1950s.
It's the equivalent of $1 trillion of public investment today. We are irresponsible. We took our parents' home, trashed it, and now about to pass it off to our kids in a horrible condition. I say no. I say let's invest. I say if you're a New Jersey commuter, you deserve better for all the money you're paying. And it's about time that we create that partnership, 50-50 spend.
Feds and the state.
State spends 50%, feds, all of us investing, who will reap the benefits? Every American will reap the benefits.
Corridor.
Not just, remember, our region is integrated with every other economic region. If you have a backup...
It's an international issue?
It is an international issue. It's American competitiveness issue. If this breaks down, it's going to affect the economy coast to coast, north to south.
Senator Booker, you touched on this, but you didn't give it a name before. Jackie, the zones are called opportunity zones. You didn't actually call it that. Give me 30 seconds on an opportunity zone and why it matters.
Probably the most impactful bill I've ever passed. I partnered with a Republican. We basically said, if you invest in
Can you say a Republican's name?
Yeah, sure. Tim Scott. He's the other big ball guy in the Senate.
Do you guys have your own caucus?
We got a ball guy caucus.
Democrats and Republicans?
Democrats, Republicans. We asked some women to come in as well. We want to get a diverse caucus of follically challenged people.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
Go back to the tax plan.
We basically said, look, we have all these people want to invest in foreign countries and emerging markets. We've got domestic emerging markets. There are low-income areas like Camden, Trenton, Newark, Detroit. You pick your community, rural areas as well, who aren't getting the investment they deserve. And so we basically said, let's say that if you are an investor and are willing to take capital off the sidelines and invest in a rural or urban poor area, we're going to give you no capital gains tax. And so in other words, we're going to start getting investments in areas to create jobs, business opportunities in areas that have long been neglected because they lack the moral imagination of capitalism, of capital that can really invest in
communities. Is there support for it, both sides of the aisle?
We got it done. It's the law of the land.
It's the law of the land.
I heard somebody talk who knows economic investment.
So President Trump signed this?
Signed it. Literally.
See, good things can happen.
Listen. This was called by one group the biggest economic development bill in a generation in Washington, and it's going to drive billions of dollars into communities like Camden, like Newark, and across this country.
Let's shift gears. We're talking about economic matters as well. United States Senator Cory Booker, we have him for the entire half hour. Steve Adubato here. Legalizing marijuana. There are efforts in states all across the nation. You say a federal issue. What specifically should be done? You believe in legalizing
Yeah, we have
marijuana.
federal prohibition now. Even states that have legalized marijuana, they're violating federal law. So I say basically two sides to this. One is deschedule it. Take it away from being an illegal drug on the federal level. Let every state make up their own decision. And then two, and this is the justice aspect of it, remember, no difference between rich and poor or black and white for using drugs. But if you're poor in America, you're much more likely to have an arrest record for doing things that 2 of the last 3 presidents admitted to doing. If you're black, almost 4 times more likely than someone white, even though there's no difference in usage. So we've got to start talking about restorative justice. Expunge the records of people who if you're going to legalize marijuana, remember, if you have a felony arrest for possession of marijuana, remember, we had more people arrested last year for marijuana crimes than for all violent crimes combined.
But Senator, respectfully, doing this, some would argue that it is, in fact, sending the wrong message to young people and others that you can get high, marijuana, potentially, some believe it's a gateway drug.
This is what we do. We have kids, small amount of marijuana. For the rest of their lives, they didn't even serve jail time, but they can't vote in many states. They can't get Pell Grants. They can't get business licenses. Why are we punishing people?
Should there be
like
any
this?
Punishment?
I believe we should be moving towards, in the state of New Jersey, just like we saw with prohibition on alcohol, it caused incredible amounts of violence. It broke families up. It cost us billions of dollars to enforce. Small amounts of marijuana, we should be legalizing that, and we should be expunging records, taking the tax revenue and investing in things like education, treatment, and the like. Marijuana, the war on drugs has been an absolute failure, costing us billions of dollars of public money, destroying lives, and giving people lifetime sentences for doing things that senators, congresspeople, presidents all brag about doing. We've had legalized marijuana for a long time. For people that are privileged, the college kids that do it with no worry.
It's a social justice issue.
It's a social justice issue.
Senator, you may not expect this question, but it is largely because the question is coming because we're involved in an initiative talking about the issues that affect infants and toddlers. It's actually an initiative called Right from the Start NJ Question. And we've talked to Governor Murphy about this, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, right in this studio, she was talking about it. What is the role of the federal government to protect and help infants and toddlers, okay, when it comes to early childhood education, child care? Is that a federal issue?
It is an American issue. And what other countries are doing right now, casting a shadow on us,
Are they ahead of us?
Way ahead.
How?
Well, remember, in a global knowledge-based society, the most productive economic unit you have is not a unit of coal or a unit of oil or gas. The most valuable natural resource we have is the genius of our children. Brain development happens, the majority of it, from the time in your womb to your first, second year. And we are a country right now that we have infant mortality rates that are as high as some developing nations. We are not investing in the well-being and the development of the brains of our children, and that's sinful. And so what's Germany doing? What's Japan doing? They're all investing in early childhood development, all investing in prenatal care, while America, we're letting people fend for themselves. That is criminal to me in a globally competitive environment.
un-American?
It is un-American. We should be the #1 nation for investing in children, investing in child well-being, elevating. We have 20% of our children born in poverty. Other countries are eliminating child poverty. And so we're America. We should show our values, not by our ability to create billionaires and millionaires, but our value to make sure that every child has a fair fight, a fair chance in this life to nurture and cultivate their genius.
Talk about mental health. Does the year 2020 mean anything to you in terms of, people have different things they want to do in their lives. They want to
Yes.
get promoted. They want to anchor new shows. I'm doing everything I want to do. I'm blessed that way.
Yeah.
Is there something you would like to do in 2020 beyond what you're doing today? in
Well, I
terms of-
appreciate you asking me that question because
curious.
I'm up for re-election in 2020.
Are you really?
I am.
For re-election to the United States Senate?
Yes.
Are you
yes.
curious about 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in any way, Senator?
I wish 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue right now would do the right thing by the state of New Jersey, stop attacking our taxes, do the right thing by children at the border, not violating our values.
And if you perceive that is not happening, do you engage in the possibility of, hey, listen, I want to get into this and have a discussion with others about what the presidency
Well, I
should
hope to be back here to talk about it because you're a friend. I feel comfortable. This would stay between us, I'm sure. But I will say that what we all should be focusing on is November in this state. We could flip a number of House seats, which would create a check and balance.
Seconds, go ahead.
We could win this House back in New Jersey by flipping a number of House seats and having a check and balance on the presidential power that would force us to work together more and get things done.
Well played, United States Senator Cory Booker. I want to thank you.
Thank you,
for
old
joining
friend.
us. Appreciate
Thank you
it
very much.
Steve Adubato here. That is Cory Booker, and we thank you for joining us. Check you out next time.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., RWJ Barnabas Health, the New Jersey Education Association, PSE&G, NJM Insurance Group, Verizon, International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825. And by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State.
NJM Insurance Company has been serving New Jersey policyholders for more than 100 years. But just who are NJM's policyholders? They're the men and women who teach our children, the public sector employees who maintain our infrastructure, the workers who craft our manufactured goods, and New Jersey's next generation of leaders, the people who make our state a great place to call home. NJM, we've got New Jersey covered.